So picture this, it's 2025, and China has basically hit the pause button on taking new planes from Boeing. This isn't just a small hiccup, folks, it's a massive deal. China was one of Boeing's biggest customers. Imagine your main source of income suddenly drying up. Boeing is definitely feeling the squeeze, and the silence from Beijing is deafening. The immediate impact on the aviation industry is pretty clear. Fewer new Boeing planes going to China means Chinese airlines can't expand their fleets as quickly. They might have to delay new routes or make do with older planes. This could eventually mean fewer flight options or even pricier tickets for travelers. And when planes get grounded, it's not just the airlines that feel it, it's a whole ecosystem that starts to wobble. The ripple effects are just beginning. The Boeing 737 MAX, a plane that's had its share of headlines, is right in the middle of this. China was a key market for the MAX's comeback. This halt is a significant setback, not just for sales numbers, but for restoring global confidence in the aircraft. This move is widely seen as a strategic play in the ongoing US-China trade war. Hitting Boeing sends a very loud, very clear message to Washington. This whole Boeing situation isn't happening in a vacuum. It's part of the much larger US-China trade war. This isn't some new squabble. It's been simmering and occasionally boiling over for years now. We're talking tariffs on everything from soybeans to semiconductors. It's about economic dominance, technological supremacy, and who gets to write the rules for the 21st century. Think of it as the world's most expensive staring contest. The thing about these economic giants clashing is that everyone else feels it. Global economies are so interconnected these days, it's like a giant game of Jenga. One wrong move from the US or China, and the whole tower could get a bit wobbly for everyone. What happens in Beijing or Washington doesn't just stay there, it sends ripples across oceans, affecting businesses and consumers in countries that just want to mind their own business. The US slaps tariffs on Chinese goods. Suddenly things like electronics or furniture get more expensive for American consumers, then China retaliates. They put tariffs on American products, so US farmers can't sell as much pork or soybeans to China, and, as we're seeing, American plane manufacturers can't sell as many planes. It's a tit for tat that ends up costing jobs and money on both sides. Ultimately, nobody really wins a trade war. Let's talk money, because that's what this really boils down to for Boeing. When China stops taking deliveries, we're talking about billions of dollars in lost or delayed revenue. Boeing has planes built or partially built that were destined for China. Now those planes are sitting around not making any money. Beyond the immediate financial hit, there's the long-term picture for Boeing in China. For years, China was seen as the promised land for aviation growth. Everyone predicted a massive surge in demand for new planes as more Chinese people started flying. Boeing was counting on this. Now that bright future looks a lot more uncertain. It forces a major rethink of their strategy. This situation forces Boeing to adjust its global game plan. They can't just ignore a market the size of China. But if that market becomes unreliable, they have to look elsewhere or scale back production. Finding alternative buyers for dozens of massive, expensive airplanes isn't like selling a used car on Craigslist. This creates a huge logistical and financial puzzle for the company. Boeing is a giant company, but it doesn't build those incredible flying machines all by itself. It relies on a massive network of suppliers. We're talking thousands of other companies, big and small, that make everything from engines and landing gear to seats and tiny little screws. When Boeing catches a cold because China isn't buying, these suppliers are the ones who get pneumonia. Their order books shrink, and their businesses feel the pain almost immediately. If Boeing isn't delivering as many planes, it doesn't need as many jet engines from GE or Pratt & Whitney. It doesn't need as many fuselage sections from Spirit AeroSystems. It doesn't need as many in-flight entertainment systems. This slowdown cascades through the entire supply chain. Smaller companies, which might rely heavily on Boeing contracts, can face serious trouble. We could see production cuts, hiring freezes, or even layoffs at these supplier firms across the country. This isn't just about a few companies, it affects the broader US manufacturing sector. Aerospace is a cornerstone of American manufacturing. When a leader like Boeing stumbles, it sends tremors throughout the sector. It's a reminder that these big companies are like anchors for many smaller businesses and the jobs they provide. While China is giving Boeing the cold shoulder, it's also been busy trying to build its own airplanes. Meet Comac, China's state-owned aerospace manufacturer. They've been developing planes like the C919, which is designed to compete directly with Boeing's 737 and Airbus's A320. This trade war, and the halt in Boeing deliveries, might just be the push China needs to accelerate its own aviation dreams. Think about it from China's perspective. Relying heavily on foreign companies like Boeing and Airbus for your entire airline fleet creates a vulnerability, especially when political tensions are high. If they can build their own reliable planes, they reduce that dependency. So this current situation could be a golden opportunity for COMAC to step up and fill the gap, at least domestically. Chinese airlines might be encouraged, or even pressured, to buy Chinese-made planes. For decades, the skies have been dominated by the Boeing-Airbus duopoly, but a successful and ambitious Chinese competitor could seriously shake things up. Imagine a world with 3 major players instead of 2. That would mean more competition, potentially lower prices for airlines, and a whole new dynamic in the global aviation market. This US-China trade spat isn't just about Boeing and airplanes, it's like a storm that's hitting multiple sectors. Think agriculture. American soybean farmers have been on a roller coaster. Think technology. There's a whole battle over semiconductors, 5G, and who controls the digital future. The automotive industry, consumer electronics, even fashion, they all get caught in the crossfire of tariffs and trade restrictions. What we might be seeing is a fundamental shift in global trade relations. For a long time, the mantra was globalization, open markets, free trade, and complex supply chains spanning the globe. Now, countries and companies are starting to rethink that. Maybe relying too much on one country for critical supplies or as a key market isn't such a great idea. Diversification is the new buzzword. This could lead to the rise of regional trade blocs, where countries focus more on trading with their neighbors, or we might see a general trend towards more protectionist policies worldwide, with nations trying to shield their domestic industries. The era of easy breezy, unchecked globalization might be facing some serious headwinds. So, where do we go from here with US-China relations? That's the multi-trillion-dollar question, isn't it? Are we looking at a new Cold War, fought with tariffs and tech restrictions instead of tanks? Or can these two global powers find some common ground? The stakes are incredibly high, not just for them, but for the entire planet. This is where diplomacy is supposed to come in. Leaders need to talk. Negotiators need to sit down and hammer out deals, even if those deals are imperfect. Finding ways to de-escalate tensions and build some level of trust is crucial. Even if trade tensions ease, the rivalry over technology is likely to continue. This tech race is a marathon, not a sprint, and it will shape the global balance of power for decades to come. Ultimately, the world needs a more stable and predictable framework for global trade and economic cooperation. And as of June 2025, Boeing is still waiting for that call from Beijing.